Tell us a little bit about yourself. You're at Tricentis right now. You are the senior manager of marketing ops. Give me a little background what you're doing right now.
Hey, thanks, Ian. Thanks for having me on. I'm pumped about this. Yeah, I was, a consultant for a while, and then ended up at Tricentis, kind of through consulting. And we've seen a couple different attribution styles and models and programs. And I think you helped us transition into our latest one that's working out pretty well for us.
Yeah, it was a fun ride. We did that, I think, almost 2 years ago now. That's right.
Yeah, two or three.
It's time has flown by. We ran into each other at Adobe Summit, and I was like, I forgot the top. Some of the things we'll discuss today were things that I was proposing to talk about at Adobe Summit 2 years prior, because I thought what you were doing and how forward thinking you were. You were really kind of going outside the box of the structure of general attribution tools. I'm really excited about today's call and diving a little bit deeper into that and getting to the meat of this because I think it's going to help a lot of marketing operations people as they try to navigate whether build versus buy. So let's talk a little bit about build versus buy. You alluded to this. Tricentis has gone through kind of different areas of building and then purchasing tools. So tell me a little bit about that. Like, what's the pros, cons on build versus buy for you?
Yeah, we've gone through kind of three stages here. Originally, we used like Tableau and packaged up some information out of Marketo and put it into a third-party database, and then pulled that into a data warehouse where we did some Tableau visualizations. We had a company help us with that. And then we migrated to a different model that used some of the same mechanics of packaging up, I guess what Measure would call touch points, but they were like interaction little
Yeah.
bits. Um, and then use Click to visualize those and understand you know, what content and what attributes of the content were important to our to our market. And then let's see, we transitioned from that into using Marketo Measure, um, which was honestly it was great. When it came to like reliability of packaging up those interactions and creating touch points. So it made our data pipelines like a lot cleaner and better. But you got to fit into a structure that's Marketo Measure, and that did pose some challenges for us.
Yeah, so there's a little bit less of an effort on the front of building something when you once you purchase the tool, like a measure or wherever you go, that some of that additional lift was gone, such as collecting all the data, pumping it out, paying a third party person or organization to build something inside a Tableau and then present it. This has a little, you have that, but then there's a little bit of a rub of no matter what tool you buy, there is a way in which that tool defines attribution, and that can be challenging.
Absolutely. And having like the Adobe stamp of approval, like this is like the gold standard for doing attribution reporting. Like you have these different flavors, models. It's a lot easier sell than saying, hey, we cooked up this thing in Click
Yeah.
with our data science team. So this is what we're going to say our marketing performance is. That's a tougher conversation to have for sure.
Yeah, that's a great
Um,
call out. I mean, you mentioned Marketo, and Marketo Engage actually does decent attribution, but it is even then it is centralized on marketing, right? It's really you have to over engineer it to get other or pump the data out to and combine it with other data points to say here's the entire journey, and it's an effort there. So that's a great call out. So let's talk a little bit about that. Like, what were some of the challenges that once you purchased the tool, that you faced? Obviously, you mentioned like, hey, we arguing this is the standard in which Adobe themselves says this is what attribution is. That actually helped alleviate some things. What were some of the challenges that came with it?
Um, the kind of shifting to the idea and getting our marketers to shift to the idea and leaders too, that this isn't saying, you know, marketing sold this, like
Mhm.
the attribution of like, we didn't close those deals. So taking credit in like a different way, just being like, we supported this amount to, move down pipeline and be closed one business. Just like how we frame the conversation to make it like, you know, so we have a good working relationship with sales and also get taken seriously. We had to reframe it. So getting that buy-in
Yeah.
was, we did a couple simple things like we looked at close lost opportunities and close won opportunities, like a visible touch points with opportunities report, and just did some basic analysis from those reports. Like when it's closed won, how many touch points are there, like average and median? When it's closed lost, how many touch points are there, average and median? And then we did like the same thing with deal sizes. If there are, if it's closed lost, and they have low touch points, what are the deal sizes? If they're closed won, how do those correlate there? And then kind of split them up into different deal size strata, account tiers,
Yeah.
and kind of took that conversation very quickly from what is this to, okay, we agree that the more marketing touches accounts have and buyers have, um, deals close quicker and they have higher, you know, uh, higher deal sizes.
Yeah, it's such a great call out. And I think this is where people miss it. And when people talk about, well, attribution doesn't work or attribution is dead or whatever the hot take for people, I think it's a complete miss because when you actually look at the data and what these tools are able to do for you, you do exactly what you just said. So forget about the percentages, forget about it trying to assign credit. Just look at, okay, this is the journey. And yes, it is not perfect. You may be able to only collect 90% of the touch points because there's this dark social or whatever it is. I don't care. At the end of the day, when you look at the actual buying life cycle, from when someone is engaged to when they close a deal, you're able to see all the engagements that are happening in a cookieless world. You have a first party cookie, you're able to see all of these data points and make an argument that, hey, this is what's valuable. Here's what the marketing efforts that have driven value to this organization. Here's the content. So I think it's just such a great call because it's so often lost with people. They're just like, well, I'm just having a hard time with assigning percentages. And it's just like, you're missing it. Like you're missing the
Well,
forest through the trees, right? Like it's just like it's really hard.
yeah, start small, make sure and level set and get some buy-in and kind of work that buy-in into, through conversation and dialogue into, bigger conversations into like which models to use when, and like what is actionable based on the data coming out of those models.
Yeah, so good. So what one of the challenges and where again this is where I was hoping we would be able to present on a big stage and to others at Adobe Summit 2 years ago was you and the team were able to from an operations standpoint. So those who are marketing ops, listen up, right? You were able to create a custom object to help solve for a challenge that you had. So you actually went outside the box of some of the confines that you had of measure and really stretched the system. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. So in our previous models, we had like different views for different types of marketers. So like content marketing wants to see something different than campaign marketing and digital marketing and even product marketing. They want to look at their touch point sets and split them out in different ways. And they were used to doing that in kind of the old model, old structure that we had for reporting. So when we switched to measure, we gained a level of reliability and confidence that we're getting all of our interactions. But we did kind of degrade some functionality with our reporting. So in order to get that back, we took our very rich content library that we had and put that into a custom object in Salesforce. And then we are very fortunate to have some talented Salesforce developers. Anybody can create a custom object, but getting that custom object information to match to touch points. So you interact with our white paper here. Um, we were able to take the content offer library information, so like language, personas, whatever, and then write that back to the touch point on custom fields. So what that
Yeah.
allowed the marketer to do. So go ahead.
No, this is where it gets really interesting because I mean, I want to press into this a little bit. As we all know, with way Measure creates touch points, there's a lot of touch points that get created. So, how are you able to like kind of measure that? And I think you're about to jump into that, but you know, you use this custom object. How is that going about with all the data that's processing there? How are you able to get that all aligned?
I don't know that I can get into the specifics on that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah.
the Salesforce developer was the one that like, but it was really interesting. Yeah, at a high level, like, tell us more about it.
Yeah. Okay. So, an online touch point has a form URL. In our content library, we have a form URL. So if there's a match there, we write back the content offer information to the touch point. Similarly, for an offline touch point, if our serial code matches the content offer serial code, we write back all the important information onto the touch point into individual fields. So net, like the cool thing that it gives our marketers, like, we have a bunch of products. So our product marketing team, they're all focused on one product. They don't care about the other 6 products or whatever we have. I don't even remember. But they can do touch point reports. They can filter on a product or a set of products, and they can just see all the touch points for that product. And then content marketing, they're interested in like content types and like stuff that they develop for a persona. So they can do pivots on that. They can be like, okay, show me my webinar program. And then there's specific people within content marketing who do like I mentioned, webinars. Like a couple people just do webinars or different types of webinars. They can quickly drill into those content types and get back all the information they need. So they can report out in a way that is familiar for them. So they can either use our serial codes, content type, combination thereof, to get back reasonable information and use like familiar terms to them to go gather
Right.
that information, and not using like ad campaign name random
Yeah.
stuff or
Yeah,
like
you've broken the challenge of, well, all you can report off of is UTMs, right? You've now broken that and you've given really rich data to, and this is the common problem with a lot of organizations, like, well, I need to know product-based touch points. And right now the answer is UTMs. That's
yeah, or you have to
that's
build
the
that into your URL structures, right? Your
Yeah, or
folders.
yeah, it's just the random URL structure. Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's and what I also like about this is, and again, I wish we could like do a deeper dive of like presenting like here's the flow, here's how all this works. It's the challenge with it is it's not really Adobe, it's Salesforce. Like this is how we've like adjusted Salesforce to work with an Adobe product. But what's really cool about that is now, even from a reporting structure and a data structure, all of it is on 1 or 2 objects. So again, rather than trying to join, like you've rather than trying to join, like here's my contact, here's the opportunity, here's this product custom object. It's all on the touchpoint object, which is just so awesome because now it's like, well, no, all of that is combined on this power object, the super object, and we can run all this data. So it takes less time processing. Yeah, there's a little bit more time processing up front, getting that data pushed back, but you've cut down the processing on the reporting side, which is really, really cool.
Yep. You can pivot your reports in a
Yeah,
really incredible way.
yeah, it's so awesome. All right. So that's one way in which buying a tool and customizing the tools in which it works with to help enhance. What are some of the challenges you face now when you buy a tool versus like if you were building a tool? We were kind of talking about this a little bit before we jumped on, that you're currently facing with a attribution tool.
Right. Okay. Um, this isn't a challenge. This is actually a huge benefit, is that there's an awesome support team for a Marketo measure. So if something's not working right, you can go ask them, hey, why isn't this working like I expected? And
Yeah,
you can either adjust what you're doing, get your question answered, or like level set and be like, "Oh, this isn't possible." When it comes to like the "this isn't possible," you end up running into that a lot more when it's an application that you're using rather than something custom built. So the one that bites us all the time is touch point dates. We have very in tune marketers and marketing leadership. So when touch points, QLs, opportunities don't line up linearly, they start asking questions. They're like, why does this event touch point line up after the opportunity? And this is not a unique problem to us.
Sure.
So the challenge there is you can't go adjust a touch point date. Whereas if you built it custom and you're collecting your interactions in a custom way, you know, you just go
You can
change it.
stamp that. Yeah,
Yeah.
you just combine and change. That's
Yep.
right. Yeah, and you're exactly right. This is not a challenge that's only within your operations team. This is one throughout. It's a common question that has to be discussed, and how to get into, like, how do we really, where the rub and I see in that is like the adoption of a attribution tool. Like that can cause an issue when you're looking for people to, like, when leadership is trying to say, is this the tool we want to go with? That can kind of create some tension because there's not flexibility in that. So let's kind of go there. Like, how do you work? Yeah, I feel like you've alluded to this a little bit, but how have you helped your team with the adoption of a product like Marketo Measure?
Um, let's see. So as far as like gaining buy-in or like
Yeah, gaining
enablement.
buy-in. That might be a better way of saying it. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. So at the be are we talking about our marketers or like just like the
I think you can take it anywhere. Where did you need buy-in? I think when we worked together, I mean, I honestly needed just to get you guys to buy in on it. So I can speak into that. We can dive into that as well as like just your own management buying in on this. But then
got it.
like there was the next
So
tier where we were working on his management and his leadership of buy-in. So wherever you want to take that.
um as long as you can frame an attribution tool as like this is something that we have in our tool belt to answer questions to make us more effective. And as long as you can level set in that way, um, and 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 say this is what we use to judge ourselves and how we're going to try and maximize our ROI and our effectiveness and make ourselves better. Generally, people are going to listen at different levels. You don't want to get into quarreling about specific numbers and credit and things like that. So uh, after we kind of shifted the conversation from like credit, we did this, proving our worth in this way, to more of like, this is how we look at things, this is how we want to get better, and this is how we measure ourselves, then people are more willing to listen. Um,
Yeah.
I've heard on your podcast before that that pretty much everybody has trouble when they say, hey, marketing did this, we earned this dollar amount, this percentage of this deal or whatever. They run into issues because ultimately marketing is not closing that deal. Once it gets
Right.
to the opportunity stage, it's you can work with your AEs and your sellers to do things and activities that can move somebody down the pipeline, which measure gives you insight too.
Yeah.
What events can we run? What channels can we throw at these accounts that are in this opportunity stage or these stages to like move them down the funnel? But
Yeah, it's like you said earlier, like you kind of taking out like credit and just, we can easily say when there's more marketing touches versus when there's less marketing touches, we're able to accelerate deals. We're able to close deals. Like that alone, like that's great data for leadership to know. You don't have to get into, well, this channel had 25% of the pipeline. It's like that. It's just, that's where eyes glaze over. Or if you have a really data centric leader, they're going to call BS on it and say, well, tell me how the, like they're going to want to go deeper into that. And that's always a really sticky situation as well.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So
that's a good call out.
yeah, we've had to navigate some other fun stuff where all this information that we have from Measure flows into our data lake and is accessible in Power BI. So when the BI team or data science team builds dashboards and things, and that information conflicts with what we pull out and send up, through sales or pull out of Salesforce and send up the chain, that asks that brings up some questions too of like, uh, why are these different?
Yeah.
But um, anyway, it's just how they're built. One of them's like linear, and we need like QLs before an opportunity. The other one's like touch points and
Yeah.
BATs, which can happen whenever.
I think it's a good call out. It's something that we haven't touched a ton on when we talk about attribution is with whatever tool you buy, and we touched on this earlier, was, everyone, the tool itself has a certain framework in which it does attribution. And so it has some customization to it. And that can change as time goes on. But that is the challenge. Like anytime you go into an organization and they're like, well, I want to do XYZ and we bought this product, there's a mind shift because it's like, well, no, now we own this product. And I can't tell you how many times like it's really been some of the consulting time on that has just been telling teams like this is like at the end of the day you bought this and you have to like do it for the next year until either you like it or you don't like it and it goes away. Like I can't help you like sitting there and bickering about, well, this doesn't seem, it's like just try to own this and try to like understand it. But it takes time and you have to have patience with that because it is challenging and it's a complex thing and it's statistical analysis, which not everyone did great in stats or even took stats in college, right? Like it's just like this is not something that we think of all the time, and so it takes adjustment there.
Yeah, and you did bring up that we don't all think about this all the time. There are some people who do think about this all the time.
Yeah,
I would say I'm more of an enthusiast with attribution.
that's why I have you on. So
Yeah. Okay. All right.
yeah,
Yeah. Maybe not an expert, maybe an enthusiast. There we go.
I love it. No, I mean, no, I that's I'm right there with you. I mean, I think there's a huge value add in it, and I think there's a ton of opportunity for organizations to really grow. And but we there's always gonna be challenges with whatever you implement within operations or marketing. And I do think there's a shift though. I think Tricentis does a really good job of this right from the get-go, is you pulled in your data guy right from the get-go. And that's where I think a lot of teams struggle is the marketing operations team or the marketing team who bought it says, hey, we own this, we're going to try to do this, and it gets lost. And I think as time goes on, they don't really end up fully utilizing the tool. Where I loved y'all brought in your data guy right away and you worked together. And so as you had questions and he had questions, you were able to like work together to understand, oh, this is what this object is. Oh, that's what this does. Oh, how do we solution for this? And I think that also really helped accelerate the success of buying a tool because you had your data person already involved from the get-go.
Yeah. Dr. Maurice Ugbe,
So,
he's a heavy hitter, isn't he?
doctor
Uh,
is amazing. And I just love getting on a call with the doctor every time. So, but Maurice is amazing. I wish everyone had a Maurice. He's yeah, he did his due diligence as we went and onboarded it. He wasn't one of the data guys that says, I have 1,000 other things I need to do. I'm going to put this aside. He like fully owned it and went after it. So, uh,
Yeah,
Dr. Maurice, if
that's
you're listening,
another
you're
factor in our
amazing.
success. I would say that marketing operations has our own data guy,
Right.
which or data person, and that's something that we're fortunate to have, and a lot of people don't have that. So something to think about of
Much
like
less a doctor on
when
their
you buy
team.
a tool like this, who's going to be doing this analysis? Is it going to fall on operations? Is it going to fall on the marketers themselves? Is it going to roll up to the company-wide BI folks? Like, how are you going to get mind share to pull out this information and who's going to do it?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, even if you don't have, again, you are fortunate that you have someone that on the marketing team. That's something I've really have been preaching as time has gone on. Like this is just such an essential piece. Like it doesn't have to necessarily be a marketer, but you do need someone who is data centered on the marketing team to start helping this because that's going to be the future, right? I mean, reporting is going to leave Salesforce at some point. Reporting is going to live outside these inside these other tools, and that data is going to live somewhere. And you're going to have to understand. Someone's going to have to understand how to use that data, manipulate the data, populate. So I think Tricentis is a little bit ahead of the curve with than some of these other organizations, but I do think that's kind of the future there.
Yeah. Yeah. Three-prong approach. Make sure the data is right and clean and your pipelines are all set up. Make sure you have somebody who can really interpret that data. And then somebody who could be one of the other two who can politically go and like disseminate that data to the org and gain buy-in. Those are the three big ones.
That's a great one. I don't think everyone always thinks about that, especially during the buying process. But I really think that's a great call out, having that three-pronged approach is to drive success with that. Well, good, Eric. Well, I appreciate you being on Attribution Time today. This was a really good conversation. Again, maybe one day we'll present on the big stage of Adobe, but for now we will settle for this small little podcast. But thank you for being on today.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate it. It was very fun.